Hello, this is Crystal Racing here with the review of the French Grand Prix and the Crystal Score review. I know today's Grand Prix at Paul Ricard was not the most exciting race, but I do have a lot to talk about. Starting off with the first two runners who finished first and second. Hamilton gets 10 out of 10 for pulling in a fantastic performance where despite Bottas being on top throughout practice, Hamilton got pole, led pretty much every lap, won by 18 seconds, only of course to lose the fastest lap to Sebastian Vettel on the final lap. Valtteri Bottas finished second with 7 out of 10. His early season form is evaporating very quickly, and I have to say Bottas is in real dire trouble now. I mean, his championship's hopes are now beginning to flag quite severely with the fact that Valtteri is now 36 points behind Lewis Hamilton in a championship after 8 races, and frankly, I think it's safe to say both championships are over. Next up, it's Charles Leclerc, who for me gets 10 out of 10. Outperformed Vettel all weekend, got the absolute maximum he could out of that car. And whilst it is only his second podium of his career, he can hold his head up high and hopefully he can keep this momentum going for the rest of the season. Max Verstappen finished fourth, once again getting the absolute maximum out of that Red Bull Honda. And of course, you've got to realise this weekend Red Bull were under some serious pressure from McLaren. I mean, you've got to realise Max Verstappen only qualified by about a few hundredths of a second ahead of Lando Norris's McLaren, who, I mean, the McLarens had an advantage down the straight due to the design of their car compared to Red Bull's preference in the corners. So having said that, considering how quick Max was compared to his certain teammate, I've got to give him 10 out of 10. Yet another fantastic drive. 5th place was a very subdued Sebastian Vettel. He apparently was suffering from gear shift problems in qualifying and a bit of a power unit problem of some sort, but I have to say in the race he took an awfully long time to get past the two McLarens, and frankly He really looked like, you know, he was out of sorts. I mean, I know we got married during the last week to his long-time partner Hannah, who is of course the mother of his 2 daughters. But I have to say, I've got to give him 7 out of 10. I mean, it does seem as if the wind has been knocked out of Vettel's sails at this point. I mean, there's been rumours talking about whether he's even going to be around in F1 for next season. And I have to say, if he carries on performances like this, I've got strong reason to believe he could well be packing up his bags for the rest of his career and leaving F1. But I will not speculate too much about that. Carlos Sainz finished in 6th place in what was a fabulous weekend for McLaren, who managed to get their cars qualified 5th and 6th. But Carlos was the one who picked up the peak glory on Sunday. Yes, whilst I know Norris could have caught him up if it wasn't for Norris's hydraulic issue, Sainz was the one who got in front much earlier on, and he pretty much did what he needed to do to get 6th place. 10 out of 10. Some very solid, superb driving from Carlos in particular. And then next up, however, in 7th place is the driver of the day, Kimi Räikkönen, my driver of the day. Whilst he did miss out on Q3 by a 10th of a second on Saturday, in the race, Kimi did a fantastic long stint on the hard tyres before switching to the medium tyres late in the race. Held off Hulkenberg for many laps, despite Hulkenberg having more speed in his Renault. And then, of course, he caught up with Ricciardo towards the end of the race, got past him at the chicane before Ricciardo re-overtook him, cutting the blue stuff on the outside of track limits, which, of course, because Daniel Ricciardo got a 10-second penalty for what he did to Raikkonen and Norris, that means Kimi will get P7 and 6 valuable points for Alfa Romeo, who so far have had to rely heavily on the 2007 world champion. And I've got to say, as his fan, I am extremely pleased with his performance this weekend. I really do hope Alfa Romeo can keep this performance through their car developments up. Next up in 8th place was Nico Hulkenberg, who gets 9 out of 10. Now, I will say, whilst he was off the boil a few races ago, he does look like he's back to closest best performances. However, it has to be said, though, he has been outpaced quite a bit by Ricciardo in the past few races. But hopefully, if he can really sort his qualifying out again, he will get the... it's going to be a close fight between him and Ricciardo. So that's 9 out of 10 for Hulkenberg. 9th place was Lando Norris, who also gets 9 out of 10. I know he was voted Driver of the Day by many fans on the F1 website, but I've got to say, whilst there was a chance he could have caught his teammate Sainz again, I have to say his racecraft on the final lap whilst fighting Ricciardo and Raikkonen and Hulkenberg was not as good as what it needs to be right now. Yes, I know he's only 19 years old and he's got a bright future ahead of him, but I just think there was just a little bit of that wheel-to-wheel know-how missing in him. So, I'll give him 9 out of 10. Fantastic qualifying performance to grab P5, but I think his race pace wasn't quite as good as what we saw on Saturday. And then, of course, in 10th place, and what has to be one very undeserving 10th place, was Pierre Gasly, the reject of the day. I don't even know what the hell he was doing all weekend, to be honest. I mean, what's the point of bloody Pierre Gasly in that Red Bull seat? What are they doing having Pierre Gasly in that seat? That weekend for me has to be a solid 4 out of 10. All weekend he's been pretty much lapping around a mid-pack in the midfield. He is not even remotely competitive anymore. I mean, what is going on now? I mean, seriously, Gasly really needs to sort his act out. I mean, I've been having I had suspicions last year that he wasn't quite good enough to be a Red Bull driver, but I've got to say, this weekend has been absolutely abysmal. Oh my word. I mean, during the race itself, apparently he was lapping up to about 2 seconds slower than Max Verstappen. Are you kidding me? I know that Red Bull RB15 isn't the best car on the grid, but 2 seconds slower than Verstappen. Are you having a laugh? I'm lost for words. And then, of course, outside the points, of course, in the 11th place was Daniel Ricciardo, who, of course, got docked 10 seconds and... Well, I kind of feel sorry for Danny Rick. He drove well all weekend, but unfortunately, because of the fact he did put himself in a position to get docked time like that, I've got to give him 9 out of 10. Yes, it's harsh, but frankly, he didn't. I mean, I've got to say the FIA have got to sort out their sporting regulations. Daniel Ricciardo did give them a chance to punish him, especially when you consider the precedent set by the FIA back in Canada 2 weeks ago. 12th place was Sergio Perez, who gets 8 out of 10. Then his teammate Lance Stroll gets 7 out of 10. I mean, I've got to say, Lance Stroll was running in the points earlier on, but unfortunately, this time he wasn't quite able to hold in the top 10, and it seems to be he just went back to its normal self again. 14th place was Danny Kvyat, 7 out of 10. The Toro Rosso was just not quick enough all weekend, and of course, and his teammate Alex Albon gets 6 out of 10. All the Red Bull affiliated cars were suffering due to a lack of horsepower because, of course, that Honda engine doesn't really have a long grunt, as we all know. 16th place was Giovinazzi. Yes, I know what you're thinking. He got to Q3, and then after he got overtaken by Kimi on lap 5, he pretty much did nothing apart from overtaking Magnussen on the last lap. Yeah, that's what he did. But I mean, frankly, Giovinazzi is seriously needs to book his ideas up at this point. Because frankly, if he carries on like this, he could well be getting replaced by Marcus Ericsson for the last 5 or 6 races if this poor lack of form continues. Because he is not scoring any points for Alfa Romeo. I mean, if Alfa Romeo had 2 decent drivers, they could well be in with a real shout, maybe finishing P5 or P6 in the constructors table. But because they have Giovinazzi, that is not looking very likely at the moment. P17 was Kevin Magnussen, 5 out of 10, just like Giovinazzi, also 5 out of 10. Yes, I know that Haas car is not very good at the moment, but Magnussen just absolutely looks out of sorts, really. He just, I don't know what's gone on. I mean, ever since that crash in Canada qualifying, he just looks slow and quite demotivated and looks like he's not even trying, so I'm not going to say much more else. 18th place, remarkably, was Robert Kubica, who for the first time this season managed to finish ahead of teammate George Russell. I think it's safe I've got to give him 8 out of 10. Showed a bit more skill in his racecraft. I know he got a bit cheeky when he decided to shove Russell wide at turn, on the first lap, but Kubica really wanted to prove a point this weekend. And I'm pretty pleased for Kubica that he has managed to finally finish in front of Russell to silence his critics, including myself, by the way, so well done. George Russell was 19th and finished last of the runners, 7 out of 10. He pulled out a sublime lap in qualifying, but unfortunately his race was just was really average, so I'll just leave it at that. And of course, the only retiree of the race was Romain Grosjean. Why is he still in Formula 1? What a waste of a seat he is. Just, when he came on the radio to complain about Ricciardo's move on him during the race, I just sat there and thought, you are not good enough for Formula 1 anymore. You are just useless. Yes, you're still quick over 1 lap, but your racecraft is absolute nonsense. 5 out of 10 for Grosjean before his car broke down, but frankly, it didn't make any difference because he wasn't going to score any points. So, if you enjoyed this review of the French Grand Prix, please like, subscribe to Crystal Racing, and I'll see you again next time.